Okay, so back for the third and final journal entry for what have I learned. So that's like a lot to unpack because I feel like I've learned quite a bit about myself and what's important to me in terms of diversity in the workplace through this course. A lot of topics that I feel like I thought I knew a lot about, things that I didn't really know nothing about, but I've really enjoyed learning about. So there's a lot that I feel like has impacted me in the way that I respond to diversity and how I view it and how I hope to go forward in, just workplaces, but also just in other aspects of life as well. So really, I would say the main topics that have really resonated with me or stuck with me, I feel like has really been just the concepts of understanding the differences between what diversity, inclusion, justice, and equity are, and where all of those different aspects, I don't want to say they're all aspects of diversity, but just aspects of just social justice and things of that nature and their place in the workplace. I feel like I've really learned quite a bit about how I respond to it and what I hope to take from it, and kind of like differentiate in my mind how all four of those aspects kind of come together to create a truly equitable, just, fair, and thriving workplace, not just from a social aspect, but also just from an economical aspect as well. Like, it's really just, obviously, it helps an organization in more than just one way. And I think that I've kind of taken from it how it's important to me and how, it's not just about finding diversity in a workplace. It's like you break it down into these different aspects, and that's pretty important to me. And that's where I feel like in the future, whatever path I kind of end up taking is probably going to be in HR. As of right now, that's the plan. But just being able to look at a workplace or any situation, but workplace in the context of this course, and be like, okay, this is where they need to improve in diversity, justice, inclusion, equity, and how those four are completely separate. And I think it makes you think about things from a really, I don't want to say divided because that's not the right word, but it's important, I think, for me now to be able to say, okay, this is an issue of diversity, this is an issue of equity, this is where it's lacking. And I think it's been really interesting for me to kind of figure out not which is most important, but which aspects I think I could really do well in or care about more. Not in that I care about one thing more than another, but something that personally resonates more with me and like where I feel my strengths and abilities would lie. But yeah, another topic that I feel was kind of important related to the seminar that I conducted, which was about employee-led change in the workplace. And it talked a lot about grassroots campaigning and unionization and all those different aspects. And I feel like and I feel like I talked about this in my seminar, but I think it's just important to reiterate that through the process of research and creating the seminar, preparing for it, all this good stuff, where you really do a lot of the learning from a personal aspect, not even just presenting and sharing the resources, I should say. But I think it was really interesting for me because I was never somebody not cared, but I didn't really understand the importance of unionization in most workplaces. I think that I was one of those people that had a really single-minded type of it's black and white, where it's only a union's only really meant for this sector. It's not meant for other sectors where you wouldn't traditionally see unions or even grassroots campaigning. And I think it's becoming a much bigger thing in our society to see sectors, I guess is really the best word, but sectors who are not traditionally been unionized, to see them struggle with different issues. And we talked about Amazon and being a really good example, but I think we're seeing a lot more of this grassroots campaign where we just saw the Freedom Convoy. I'm going to use air quotes there, but yeah, we've seen that recently in society, and I think that it's really indicative of where society is going, that workers and people alike are just becoming far less reliant on a society and for a company to change, an organization, their leadership to change. It's just not what society is going for. We're, becoming more self-sufficient in a way where we're kind of taking control of the change that we want to see. That was obviously the main point of the seminar that I conducted, but I think that it was really nice to see how that kind of affected me, and that I actually did see more of a point to the unions in non-traditional sectors and workplaces. And I think that that's something that moving forward, I think that and again, I don't want us to care more about, because it was never a matter that I didn't care, but I think it's something I'm more conscious about, and something that I'm more it's something that I'm actively thinking about, and that definitely, assuming that I go into a sector that is not unionized, I feel like I would be more have more knowledge, but also just have a different I would relate to it differently, and I would have more of a personal connection to it, because I feel like I know a lot more about it, and it's definitely become something more that I care about. So a lot of ideas I think through the course have really been impactful to me, particularly obviously I'm a Caucasian, I identify as a female, so I feel like it's very easy for the things that we talked about, particularly in one of the cases about the woman who was pregnant and the struggles that she faced because of that, telling her boss, and she was afraid to tell her boss. And I think that that's something that resonated with me, but beyond that, I think I've also just been able to, through this course, just enrich my understanding and the way that I relate to social problems that don't directly affect me. Because I think it's really easy for somebody who sits in a privilege to, say oh, that's not something that directly affects me, so it's bad, it's not okay, but it doesn't directly affect me. And I feel like we see that a lot in society, where it's really easy for somebody to sit on social media, for example, and say, oh, racism is bad, gender inequality is bad, other, social injustices are not okay. And I feel like gender or I should say sex and racial inequality are things that we see predominantly, but there are obviously other social inequities that we saw them through the seminars. So things like neurodiversity, or just things of that nature that we don't traditionally see, that I feel like before diving deeper into them through this course, I feel like I was able to I was able to kind of remove myself from it and be like, okay, that's terrible that these inequities happen, but I'm kind of able to go along my day. But I think it changes your understanding. It changes your level of empathy and the motivation you feel to be an activist and to try and teach other people too. And I feel like I've been able to kind of bring that into my own workforce. Obviously, we've talked a few times that I work at TD, and they're very serious about their diversity programs. They have like employees who that's strictly their job, is to deal with diversity and including that into their workplace. And you know, you can see in the workforce that I work for that visually it's diverse. It is predominantly women that I work with, but I mean, just racially, ethnically, it's extremely diverse, and I think they really care about it, and they set a really good example, and I'm able to kind of be like, wow, like I've been able to have this opportunity to learn of what this importance is. And when you see customers come in and they're able to have an interaction with somebody who speaks their language that's not English, or you know, they can visually see people who look like them, who traditionally weren't given all the opportunities that they deserved, and they're able to kind of take from that and be like, wow, like, you know, that's something that I'm able to achieve. And I think it's really cool that this course has allowed us to, and I say us meaning classmates and myself alike, that we're able to kind of relate to our own lives in a different way and have a better understanding of why diversity is becoming a big thing and why there's this social movement towards equity. And it's because it's important, but it's important for people who don't identify with different aspects of this diversity and this equity to be able to be like, wow, I see the importance behind it. Yes, I support it. Yes, I think it's important to have equity, but it's like, I know why it is. It's not just society's telling me it is important. So overall, I really enjoyed the course, and I feel like it's been able to have a really positive impact on just a lot of different aspects of my life, but specifically future workforces and how, you know, we relate to the people, the change, the movement, and yeah, thanks.